Coming live from Salem, Oregon, USA is our guest tonight. Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Zachary Daniel, registered investment advisor, founder of Digital Edge Wealth Management. Welcome to the show, Zachary.
Hey, Jay, it's great to be here, and Happy New Year to everyone. So excited for this talk, and yeah, just awesome to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. Same here, Zachary, and a very happy New Year to you and to our audience. Thank you very much for that. So, Zachary will, as the topic says, the right medicine for the ailing crypto sector with you, and you are an expert. You were in nuclear medicine and now into finance. So first, just to understand from you, Zachary, is that why is the crypto sector ailing? What is your diagnosis? What do you say?
Yeah, well, the short answer is fraud and greed. A tale as old as time, right? People get greedy. People want to make fast money, and crypto is a medium to do that. Criminals are always going to use the latest and greatest technology because they need to stay ahead of the curve. And so I think crypto and Bitcoin and the space as a whole, for criminals, that's the best technology to kind of take from people. Now, I don't think it detracts from the underlying technology, which we're going to talk about. And I think there's amazing adoption and bright future coming. But for what we're experiencing right now, a lot of fraud and greed kind of all coalesced into a collapse and bankruptcies and a lot of people getting hurt, unfortunately, because as a new technology, a lot of people don't know exactly what it is, how to work with it, when people are lying to them. So when you get a bunch of new people into the space that don't know who to trust and are just seeing people make a lot of money quickly, it kind of gets people wrapped up. And so it allows criminals and bad actors to take advantage of that. So that's unfortunate, but that's what's ailing it today.
Okay, so is the security for the crypto sector so weak that few people can take over it, and there can be how is it that if there is so much of adoption, then how is it that the sector fell ill?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think that's a good criticism of the crypto industry at large. So I like to think of it as there's Bitcoin and there's kind of everything else, right? So you got Bitcoin as the kind of base layer protocol and technology. You got the companies, which are like the FTX and the Celsius and the Voyagers. And then you have all the other crypto projects, including NFTs or DeFi or other crypto protocols. And from a security standpoint, the Bitcoin network is the most secure network that's ever existed in human history. So, Bitcoin's not hacked. People aren't stealing directly from Bitcoin. It's more, if you hear about, someone getting their Bitcoin stolen or something, it's most likely their own, personal failure in their security, not the network. Now, part of the problem with this whole thing is a lot of people trusted central exchanges, right? So, they say not your keys, not your crypto. So they trusted central exchanges, which then kind of rehypothecated their Bitcoin. So say you thought you had one Bitcoin on FTX. Well, it turns out there was zero. They didn't have your Bitcoin. So that was one thing that I think security-wise is people trusting other parties. Part of the cool thing about Bitcoin and crypto is you can take ownership yourself. You don't need to trust a third party necessarily with Bitcoin. And then another part was just kind of get rich quick, and projects that make it seem like there's a lot of buzzwords, right? Blockchain, decentralization, Web 3.0. Most of it is marketing gimmicks. Most of the crypto projects out there aren't doing anything revolutionary, aren't going to be anything. So you got all these marketing buzzwords that get people invested, and then, basically promises of 5, 10, 100, 50x And so it gets people really wrapped up. And I think that is not necessarily a security issue, more just a marketing and fraud issue for a lot of projects. So when people are worried about the space, they got to focus on learn about Bitcoin and understand that technology, understand that if you interact with a lot of other parties, that puts you at risk. There's no insurance like banks normally have. If the banks lose your money, you can get reinsured by the government oftentimes. There's not that in crypto, so you have to be a little bit responsible yourself, which is hard. And I think that's kind of been a barrier to entry. So I think as more people learn about it, and I think this is a wake up call. People are gonna be more cautious about who they trust in this space, but it's definitely set it back. I think narrative wise for a bit. And some of I want to touch on the other security. Talk about security. The Bitcoin blockchain is very secure. Some of these other blockchains, Solana, Avalanche, many of the other ones are not as secure or decentralized as people think. Oftentimes they're run by a foundation that has an enormous amount of say over the network. Sometimes the network's not always up. And so not everything that has blockchain on it is the same. There's a lot of nuances in what those are. So it's just tough for people to learn, which is part of why I do what I do. Is I like helping and educating people, because I do think this is going to be a large part of the future. And if you can't have someone to trust or don't know what's happening, you can get taken advantage of pretty easily.
Right. When I was talking about security, I was talking about the security of the messaging for the sector. What happened was that everybody was, who wanted to defraud the system or build their own agenda. While they were doing that, where were the good guys? How did the bad guys infiltrate into the good guys' security and hijacked all their messaging?
Yeah.
To actually encash somebody else's check and then vanished with their loot. That is the security I was talking about, and actually not purely in terms of the technology, but be that as it may. Now the thing has happened. You talked about wake up call. Will this crypto patient wake up? Is it a permanent call?
Yeah, I think it will wake up. It's almost in cardiac arrest, it seems like at this point, but it will wake up. I've been here before. Other people that I'm very in the space have been here before. It seems like the world's falling. No one really wants to talk about it. A lot of people are hurt or have lost significant money, but it will be back. And I think there's a lot happening under the surface. And the medicine is a lot of the fraud and greed has to go away, right? And in its place, you can build a better foundation for the future. I think the narrative, like you said, the security as far as like the messaging and people hijacking it, I think this is the wake-up call maybe that Bitcoin and crypto needed, that the good voices out there are going to kind of break through. So I think there's enough people that have recognized some of the fraudsters, and they're not going to get taken advantage of like that. A lot of, legacy media kind of got in on it, right? You had a lot of prominent people kind of pushing bad projects or scams. And I think there's going to be more accountability there and caution. And some of that was, bad people were throwing a lot of money at them, right? Money talks. And so, and it's always going to talk. So there's always going to be some element of that. But this is a wake up call that the space needed. And it will be back. It won't be in cardiac arrest for forever. I know a lot of people are saying, well, it's going to go away. It's not going to be very important in the future. They're going to overregulate it, or people are just going to leave the space altogether. And I'm here to say that the people that were in Bitcoin before are not just in it for trying to make a quick buck. They're in it to build something, a technology that people can use for a long time. That's useful, and that part has been growing great. So it's tough, and it seems like it's going to last forever, and it seems like the world's falling down. But I'm here to say that the future looks bright, and nothing I say. I am a registered investment advisor, so I have to be careful about what kind of things I say and what advice I give. I'm not saying I want to come out here and say like, oh, just go buy a ton of Bitcoin and it's all going to be peaches and sunshine and it's going to 1 million. I'm here to say that you should do your best to learn about it and kind of make your own conclusion from there. But from a technology standpoint, it's a fascinating thing and amazing. So, as far as other projects in the space, we hear a lot about NFTs or DeFi or other tokens. I think some of that can be useful. NFTs are an interesting place, kind of interesting space as a whole, where I think there's going to be more applications coming out of that than people might think. A lot of people are looking at the Bored Apes or CryptoPunks, and they're like, this is just a JPEG. I can just right click that and then put it in my profile. I think some of that is a little short-sighted in that some of the value isn't derived from the picture itself. It's a status thing. It's a club. Same reason why people have high-end art, and you can go get a replica for 1 millionth of the price. It's kind of the same thing, I think, with some of the NFT space. I think it's going to definitely go more towards like a membership type thing for celebrities or influencers to get special benefits or something else, where it's less about the NFT itself and more about kind of a club ownership thing. And I think that is going to be a prominent thing. So, and there's other uses for NFTs that could be interesting and explored, but this is the time to, when everyone doesn't want to talk about it or thinks it's a scam or thinks it's going to zero, that's the time where you can learn and either not get taken advantage of in the future or possibly start getting into the space and seeing what it's about.
Before I ask you what it will take for the crypto patient to wake up, first let me ask you about medicine as well as about as a registered investment advisor. You are a degree holder in nuclear medicine, Zachary.
Yeah.
And then you shifted to finance. You are a registered investment advisor, and you have an expertise in Bitcoin. A lot of people who you may be advising, they may have invested into cryptos. And actually, they would be feeling almost as if in cardiac arrest, literally, if they have good amount of investment. As an expert in Bitcoin, as somebody who also knows about medicine, and somebody who is a registered investment advisor, what would you tell those people as a realistic advice, as a doctor, true doctor, as a true registered investment advisor, and actually as an expert who knows the reality of this particular sector? Because this is something, it's not just about your clients, the people you deal with, but across all over the world, people who have invested money, who have been very bullish, who actually have put in a substantial amount of money and are waiting for the patient, this crypto patient, to wake up. But nobody is talking. Almost everywhere there is a sort of a difficult time that's being predicted for this particular sector. And so somewhere there is now the talk happening about NFTs and all that stuff. So how do you, several questions at the same time, doctor, but I want you to respond at your own pace so that you can give the right medicine all that things together you can put up that can be effective
Yeah.
right now for the people who have invested in this particular sector.
Yeah, that's it's quite the case, right? It's quite the medical case, quite the diagnosis. So yeah, no, I do have that nuclear medicine background, and switched over to finance and specialty in Bitcoin. So it is a unique spot. But sometimes in nuclear medicine the diagnosis seems grim. Sometimes it's a tough course of action. But with the right patience and guidance, and uh, you can recover. So what I would say to the people that invested and are waiting for, obviously people invest expecting returns, right? This is a volatile space and it's a new technology. So when you invest in it, you gotta do so cautiously, right? You don't want to overdose, as they say in medicine. You might see a drug or a painkiller that can give you that really short high, but the side effects are going to be really severe. So I think people probably a lot, hopefully not my clients, but invested too much of their money, kind of took too big of a dose for something that is so volatile. Where if they're feeling like this is, they're scared and it really has hurt them financially, they probably put too much into it. They took too high of a dose. That's kind of how I'd relate it back to medicine. And the doctor will hopefully come save you. And that's where I think, when I say doctors can come save you, I don't think Bitcoin's going to zero. I think that's certainly a possibility, but I think that possibility is slim. And I think more likely than not, Bitcoin's going to recover again, price wise. I think the industry it's still strong under the surface, but the price has obviously suffered greatly. But it will recover and it will get healthy again and it will grow. So, it's tough. It takes time. Nothing comes easy. Nothing great comes easy or quick. So I know people, a lot of people get into Bitcoin for that quick rush, that quick high, try to make a bunch of money quick. You can't have that without having volatility, right? You can't go up 1,000% without having drawdowns of 70 to 80%. That's just how, if you're going to look for those returns, there's risk reward. So, but with a longer, take some time, reflect on what, if you're really sick with crypto per se, take some time to reflect, be like, why did I put so much into it? Why did I risk so much? Why am I feeling like everything's doom and gloom? And if you are feeling that way, yeah, you have to kind of do a little self-reflection and be like, well, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have taken that drug, or I should have taken it in a small dose or done more research on the drug. That's how I kind of relate it back to medicine. But those people that are feeling that way, take a deep breath, look at life. And I think things are going to be just fine down the road. What's gonna save it? At the end of the day, there's hundreds of thousands of people dedicating their lives to the network. So if you think of it from a value perspective, there's people in Africa working on Bitcoin, on the Lightning Network. They're adding value to you in India, in Salem, unlike anything that has ever kind of, not many things can do that. There's not many people in Australia dedicating time, effort, money to help someone in New York, just, help their investment per se in New York, without any, expectation of severe reward, which is what really a lot of Bitcoiners at the core think. They just see it as, this is an awesome technology that I think can help the world, and I'm going to spend a lot of time and effort on it, regardless if it's going to make me a lot of money or not. I've been there, and I still am there. So, the medicine's hard to swallow. And as an investment advisor, you know, you got to try to be level-headed and realistic about this. I think that the space is going to grow significantly, but you have to understand that that's not a guarantee. There's a lot of forces, you know, working against Bitcoin. I think it's incredibly strong and resilient, but you have to be realistic. You know, it's not going to go to 1 million next year, but it's also not likely to go to zero. How long it takes is obviously the $1 million question. If you just knew, you know, you'd be off into the sunset. But I do see at some point the kind of supply and demand evening out to where, yes, the price will most likely appreciate. And some of that has to do with a lot of those hardcore, you know, Bitcoin people, as I'd like to say, people working on the network, put their time and labor that they get from the world into the network. So they view it as a way to store your work, your time, your energy. And as more and more people view it that way, you know, if you look at a chart of the number of wallets that hold Bitcoin or the number of wallets that hold one Bitcoin, it's just in a straight line, basically up. And it's continued to do that no matter what the price is. And so give it, you know, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. Eventually, you know, there's just not going to be enough sell pressure to keep the price down, most likely. As long as Bitcoin keeps growing under the surface, which by all indications it is. So no, it's a really good question. it was kind of tough.
One thing I'm still trying to understand: why are the people who are genuinely serious about Bitcoins and about the technology, about the benefit that it actually can bring or is bringing in different parts of the world, why have maybe I'm wrong, but the voices are not coming that much? Are they scared? Is there something to fear, or is it that they have lost that being righteous about a particular thing that they what is it, and how will they get back their voice? It was not somebody from outside who took away that message. It was they let it happen. Why did they do it? So how does it become? This is where, as I said, what will it take for this patient to wake up? And do these people, even Bitcoins and all those people, what bitter medicine they will themselves have to take?
Yeah, I think, you know, the medicine they have to take is a little bit of humble pie. You know, probably a little bit myself included. You know, I'm only human. So just because I've spent a lot of time, thousands and thousands of hours, just because I've done a lot of things in space, doesn't mean that I'm immune to falling into some of the same tendencies that everyone else is. I just, you know, it's the same thing. So a little bit of humble pie, a little bit of recognition that, you know, there still is a lot of work to do. I think, you know, a lot of people that were in the Bitcoin and still are, were, you know, ready for it to rocket off in the sunset, and it was going to sing Kumbaya, and Bitcoin was going to just take over. And I think part of the reason it didn't is, and part of the reason that it's going to take more time, is because they allowed a lot of fraudsters to be the voices and took a lot of money from people and hurt a lot of people. So they got to take some accountability there. They should have been louder. They should have been more diligent. They shouldn't have let all these scam projects have so much a voice and say. And they should have, because there were a lot of prominent Bitcoiners, and some of them, the smaller voices, were kind of calling this out, but there were a lot of large voices that took some money from fraud players, and I think it hurts reputation wise when that happens. And now a lot of those voices are obviously silent because, you know, they were part of the issue, and either they lost a lot of money or they're going to go to jail, or
and a lot of them were influencers, also known as fin influencers. What a great name, you know, the word.
Yeah, a lot of them were influencers, and it's unfortunate. So and as far as the voices, you know, in Bitcoin, obviously it's gotten a lot quieter, and that's okay with me. You know, I've been here before where it seems like quiet it seems like people go away. I think that a lot of people that go away are just in it temporarily, right? Are just in it they just wanted to make a quick buck, and they weren't really caring about where this was going, or Bitcoin itself, or any of the benefits that could happen. So in that sense, I'm okay if those people leave, but you're right. Bitcoin people need to find their voice again. I think there are prominent Bitcoin, people out there still, talking about it, but it doesn't need to get built, with their voice. It just needs to get built with slow adoption.
Right. So Zachary, in the messaging that will perhaps follow in the next few days, months, or year, I don't know when, but is crypto, Bitcoin, or any other technology you can say, is it about creating value, or is it about you can say price of a particular crypto? Because what happened, I asked this question even earlier on. I was talking to an expert few months back, say 3-4 months back, that when there was this messaging, they always tell, we are trying to serve that bottom 20%. But actually, everybody then was, after coming out of the room, everybody is talking about, this is the price today. Did you see the price today? Now, how is it going to work? And how is it going to help that bottom 20%? There's a clear-cut mismatch.
Yes.
How is that course correction going to happen? What will be the new messaging, do you think, in the coming days that will help?
No, that's a really good question. I think that's one of the critical things that you have to ask this space, is like, you talk about.
I know a couple of youngsters, very promising guys, when they used to talk about, I don't know anything about crypto, and I don't know, but when they were talking about the prices, sometimes I didn't know that making money was so easy, and almost felt like you are losing out on something very promising. And so that was the sort of atmosphere. Now, if money were so easy, then everybody would be running after that easy money. It isn't. That's why people go in and work day in and day out, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's what they do.
It is right.
So how does it work? What's the future? How do you see it panning out?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And it's, you talk about value versus money, number go up, as they say, and it is difficult, because I think some of the messaging, and we go back to messaging, get into it.
But actually, this is not backed by any asset. If you look at a nation's currency, that backed by sovereign guarantee, there is a asset backing that particular value, whatever it is. That's the will of the people that reflects. Here it's the will of the miner. How does it work there?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. There's not an easy, tangible way to value Bitcoin. What is backing it other than just faith, right? I think you could say some of it is the backing is the security system itself, the cryptography, the mining, the fact that it's virtually an impenetrable computer network. That's part of what's backing it. Another part of what's backing it is the ability to send value without a third party. I think that can be a valuable thing across the world instantly. One of the interesting things when we talk about, especially Bitcoin people like me like to evangelize, it's going to help so many different people, and it's like, on the other end, you're just talking about, I just want to get rich. How is that going to help? How's that going to help someone in that's doesn't have his opportunity, right? The way I think about it is, one of the great things about the internet was it gave everyone a communication vector, right? Everyone was able to communicate everywhere because of the internet. That's what it kind of opened up. And the only problem that we have today, or one of the big problems, is there wasn't a way for us to move money or value across the world. We could move our voices, but we couldn't move money. If you wanted, you're in India, if you want to send me $5 American, like, there's almost no way that you could do that. But with Bitcoin and crypto, it opened up that avenue. So I don't know if it's necessarily, when we talk about the bottom 20% or bottom 30%, it's about opening access to opportunity. So not everyone is going to be able to take advantage of that necessarily. But what it will allow is people that otherwise wouldn't be able to make a business or get their service paid for. If someone has a valuable service now in the world, you can have a mechanism to get paid for it by other people in the world easily, that you might not have had before if you didn't have a bank account, or if you were so low on the socioeconomic scale. So I think that's where the opportunity lies. It's not going to be the end all be all, but it gives that chance, right? Just like the internet allowed people to talk and communicate all over the world, Bitcoin and crypto is going to allow people to send value all over the world, in new ways that I can't even think of. So, but yeah, it is tough, because you're right. It's essentially backed by faith. There are different things you can try to say it's backed by, and that's the end of the day is what faith do people have in it? What's the track record, right? For me, the track record of Bitcoin is basically 10 years of uninterrupted uptime, the network, 10 years of never being compromised from a security standpoint, 10 years of me being able to send money over to someone in Australia, Bitcoin over to Australia, and no one can stop that. No one can get in between that. For me, that's valuable. 10 years of more people getting on the network, 10 years of more people building things, spending their entire lives around it. For me, that's what backs Bitcoin at the end of the day. So when I look at, what's the value proposition? That's the value proposition for me. Now that's reflected in the price too, right? Bitcoin used to be traded for nothing. It was basically free. And it's grown from basically free to, $16,000 a coin. Where that goes in the future, I would imagine that it goes higher, much higher. But, I get people are worried and skeptical about it. And when people say, our money's backed by the government and stuff, that's true. But the government has to be responsible in how they manage the money. And unfortunately, there's a bad track record of governments not handling money right. And that hurts people, right? If you save $1 million in the rupee or the dollar, odds are in 10 years, you don't have that same purchasing power. And that's because the government acts irresponsibly. And when what does it say? That absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Right.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when you give governments the power over money, that's absolute power, right? That's entire nation's savings, right? All the work that they ever put in their life is in that money. And so if you give that power to a few individuals, it's inevitably going to be exploited. And that's part of, Bitcoin's core thesis is you don't want that control in a few people. If you're going to if you want as least control over the money as possible, because that's a fair way to do it. One thing that I would like to, point out is, when the U.S. did all the stimulus after COVID, I went down to El Salvador, and they're dollarized, so they use the dollar. I was getting stimulus money during COVID, and you go down to El Salvador, they use the dollar. They didn't get any stimulus money. All the citizens in that country got poorer after COVID because the government in the U.S., acted, in my opinion, partially irresponsibly and just printed money. That has an effect, and I think that Bitcoin, part of the thesis is, you don't want that control in governments. Now, does that mean Bitcoin's going to replace the U.S. dollar or anything like that? I don't think it's going to get to that point, but I think there is value in something outside of something money related outside the control of government. So, yeah, that's kind of some of the messaging. So hopefully
as long as that is not money laundering as per the law.
As long as it's not money laundering. And obviously a lot of people associate Bitcoin or crypto with criminal actions. And it's unfortunate that we attribute wanting privacy and autonomy to criminality, right? Well, just because you don't want the government all the way in your business means you must be doing something illegal. And for all my time in Bitcoin and crypto, I've only seen firsthand one strong instance of straight fraud. Most of the people that do anything with Bitcoin, they don't do anything illegal, but unfortunately, that's the rap it gets, and it's kind of the same narrative that the internet was at first, right? The early internet's a lot of scammers. This is just for nerds. This is just for criminals. And like I said, went back to the beginning, is people are going to use bad people are going to use new technology a lot, and so they need that edge. And so that's probably going to continue. I just think it's part of the space. And it happens all the time in our regular days. Wells Fargo just got fined $3 billion for basically just stealing money out of people's accounts and foreclosing on their homes early and charging them extra fees. So, I think the amount of bank fines in the last 10 years for the U.S. banks is about $300 to $500 billion in bank fines, which is just the cost of doing business. So I like, people like to point to people in Bitcoin or crypto doing, well, it's just for fraud. Our own system has embedded fraud and deceit in it. It's just kind of more normalized. And it's just like, well, people are going to use whatever tools are available to them. And if you're a big bank and you basically control, people's money and loans, it's tempting. So yeah, hopefully that answers a little bit of a question.
Absolutely. Let's take it that it's an unfortunate crypto guy who was walking on the road and it got mugged, robbed, or knocked down by an errant driver.
Yes, so now he's in the hospital and he's hopefully recovering.
While we wait for the crypto patient to stabilize, come out of its comatose position, whatever way we want to put it.
Yeah.
Till that time, be that as it may, for real world investments, how do people connect with a registered investment advisor like you?
Yeah, so that people can connect with me through my website, digitaledgewm.com. I'm all for just I obviously can only say so much if you're not my client, but I like to just answer questions, or you can just reach out and pick my brain about a few things, and yeah, connect with me through there. And I'm very approachable, and if you want to know anything about curious about the crypto space or want clarity on any of my answers, because when you're in the podcast format and you're thinking of stuff on the fly, sometimes not everything comes out as coherently as you would like, or you can't explain some certain nuance into it. So, if you had a question or you thought I said something wrong, give me a shout out. But or you can find me on Twitter. I'm sure my socials will be in the description. But yeah, hopefully you just reach out.
Right. I have a question. You shifted from nuclear medicine to finance because of your background, and now you have written a book, a fiction novel, Manifest Destiny. Can you help us understand why from nuclear medicine to finance, and then about this fiction novel? Help us understand the connect between them, and how does it connect with the way you are a young guy? Where do you want to reach? How does it connect with the place that you want to reach?
Yeah, it is a weird web. I always wanted to be in medicine at first. My mom was a nurse, and I liked medicine, so I went in the medical field, and I thought nuclear medicine was interesting because it had patient care, and also you're dealing with radioactive isotopes, and it was just a really cool thing. And I had always been interested in money and finance, but I kind of thought I was going to go to medicine because it was stable, reliable. I liked it. And the interesting thing about finance and money is you can get into it without having a specific degree if you make money, right? In medicine, you can't, right? You have to have a certain credentials to do it. So that's how I kind of viewed it. And I kind of always wanted to make the jump to finance eventually. It just happened a little earlier than I thought. You know, as you said, I'm a younger guy, and still a long road ahead. So yeah, so I jumped. You know, obviously did self study. So I was studying the whole time. You know, teaching myself and you know, passed the exam to become an investment advisor. So I knew what I was talking about. But it was an interesting transition, and all the while I have some other hobbies and passions. One of them was writing. So I had a fiction book that I had been working on for many years, and it was one of the few things that I had been working on, but had never finished. And it was a very proud moment to finally get that done. And it's a passion I've been working on for a long time, like a mystery thriller. I thought of the idea one night, and I'm like, this would be a good movie. I think this could be a good movie, but I can't do a movie, so I'll just write the book. And that's what I did. So lots of interesting passions, and obviously crypto and Bitcoin's been weaved in throughout that whole sphere. I've done mining, and I started a Bitcoin ATM company, and hosted classes and done stuff like that. So yeah, it's a interesting journey so far, and I'm sure it's going to get, you know, even more interesting down the road.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I see is in future, lot many books from you, Zachary, in terms of, you know, the amount of knowledge that you have of different fields, and you can put them together. And you know, this is just the start. And I'm sure the world will see a good author getting, as I can see, into the future. That's the way I see it. Rest, you know, it's the destiny which will decide for everybody else. So with this, on this note, on this note is the it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much, Jackie, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, AJ. That was great, and yeah, I see what you did there with the destiny. So no, thank you for having me. I hope everyone has got something from that, or a wonderful day.